welcome to the Cosplay Stitch and Seam, guys. This week is going to be a little bit of a different episode. We will be, it'll be VFire at the Autorama. Me at the Autorama interviewing car people. It's a really fun experience. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. It's a little different from our normal, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. Before we get started, remember you can send your stories to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or go to the website www.cosplaystitchandseam.com. Since everyone is in lockdown with this COVID-19 nonsense, we wanted to try and help bring some cheer by doing the hashtag cosplay quarantine challenge. If anyone else wants to join in on that, it's simply making whatever you can out of the stuff you already have at home. Try to avoid going out and purchasing things and just make something fun. It can be a cosplay that you've been meaning to work on for a while. It can be something brand new made out of just the scraps of cardboard you got laying around from your recycle bin. It can be anything. It can be big. It can be small. It can be absolutely anything. I can't wait to see your guys' creations. Please share them with us on the Facebook group or on our Facebook page. We look forward to seeing all the creativity and ingenuity that you guys have. Remember, cosplay is the creation of the impossible, often with the cheaply available. This is Mercedes, aka VFire of the Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I am at Autorama 2020 in Salt Lake City, and you might be like, why? Why is she over here? So as you know, I'm named after a car, and my dad, who's here at the Autorama, also really loves cars. I mean, that makes sense, right? So he has a car here that he is showing off that he absolutely loves and is near and dear to him, and I'll have him talk about that here soon. But I wanted to show how cosplayers and car nerds are both their own types of nerds, but there's a lot of overlap. The passion is still there. And so we're just going to kind of take a sneak peek into the world of cars here at the Autorama. I hope you guys enjoy this. It's a little bit different from our normal episodes, but I thought this would be a really fun dive into something new. All right, we are here with my dad,
Lynn Merrill.
And we have his car. Do you want to talk about your car?
Okay, my car is a 2017 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack with the 392, and it's a one-of-one on the build sheet from the factory.
So, what does that mean? Sorry.
That means that there's no other car that has the same options as this one, with this color, with this interior, in the whole U.S.
It's one of a kind.
Yes.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. So, Dad, this car has been like I can't even think of the word for it. Like a legacy to you in a way, or this has been your dream. There we go. Right?
Yes.
Putting this together, and it's based off of, can you tell me the story behind it?
Okay. Yeah, like eons ago.
Before me.
before Mercedes ever existed yet. Actually, you were born when I still had the car.
Oh.
I had it from 89 to 91, and it was a 69 Roadrunner called the Street Freak. And I picked it up from my boss up in Clearfield. I traded my snowmobiles for it because I was going to be down St. George. I wanted to get back into racing, and so I raced the Street Freak for a few years. And it's a car that was originally built by Carcraft and Hot Rod Magazine back in 1976. And in fact, on the May cover of Hot Rod Magazine is the car. It's one of the first cover shots that's only done with a single car. The car has been in the Law magazine since then, and so I was able to own it for a while. I raced it. I loved the car, but then it came to a point where we had to sell it. And so I've always wanted that car back again. And so when I was having this white Challenger, even though it's a one-of-one on the build, I got hold of Jessica Zaro, who goes by Bondago up in Coeur d'Alene, to get permission to do a tribute to the original Street Freak, because I missed the car. I want to get some of that feeling back to it. And
it's like a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the one that did the original car, clear back in the 70s. And so he said, you can do a tribute to it. Says, if you ever find a 69 Roadrunner, you better build a replica for it, and I'll come paint it. So I said, that's fine. I'd love to have that happen. But for now, I decided to make this car as close as possible as a tribute to the original Street Freak, because it has that same type of feeling, the same type of flavor, tons of horsepower and stuff, but it's the colors that make it. With the oranges, the reds, the yellows, and the flat black, and the texture in the lettering. I mean, I had to modernize it because I can't do gold leaf on top of vinyl, so we put honeycomb texture, which goes back to the Scat Pack, which is what the car is. So, I mean, the way the stripes go, where they end with the hood scoop, the whole works. It's all done as a tribute to the original Street Freak.
Awesome. For those listening, I am going to have pictures on the blog of all the gorgeous cars that we talk about today, because you guys cannot miss this. These are amazing, and the amount of dedication and love put into these, you can see why why people can get obsessed about this sort of thing. So Dad, you also draw cars.
Yes, I do.
So I want to know about your artwork now.
My artwork comes from when I was a little kid and got in trouble.
Yeah.
Drawing in the textbooks at school, because I like drawing cars. I always wanted to draw cars. I was always told you'll never make it drawing cars in the real world. And so later on, when I was going to college, I decided to shoot for it all. And I spent 4 years of basic hell at BYU learning how to draw cars and design like you're supposed to in the industry. Because at GM or Ford, Chrysler, Honda, Toyota, any of those, they only take the top 1% in the world. And so I worked my butt off. I mean, there's 350 of us that started, 5 of us graduated, so it tells you kind of the attrition rate. Mm-hmm. I survived. That's all I can say. That was hard school. Everything's been easy after that. I mean, seriously, for schooling it is. And so I got the opportunity to work for General Motors, and they put me in the Camaro studio. There it was. That was Christmas every day, because when I was a little kid, the 67 Camaro influenced me to pursue being a car designer. So I got to work with the Camaros at General Motors. And so I designed the seats, the interior parts and stuff, and a lot of the stuff I worked on, made it to production. And so that's where my car drawing stuff started. Now that I'm in, the later years of my life, no. I decided, I'm getting back to drawing cars, and so I made a goal to not only do it just for myself, but for other people, because it makes them happy. And to see the joy it's on their faces when they see the stuff is great. I mean, like when I got the livery put on my car, I teared up. I cried. But I try and capture in all the drawings that love of the cars. The flowing lines, the highlights and stuff. That those feelings that you really can't capture just by telling somebody about it.
Wonderful. And again, I'll have pictures of all my dad's car art that's here at Autorama, because he doesn't just have his car here. He's got other vehicles here that he's drawn, and just fun stories behind each and every single one of them. Thank you, Dad. Is there anything else you want to share? Do you have the social media you want to shout out?
Social media? There's merrillgm.blogspot.com. That's where all my car drawings I do are put on, so that people can view. You have to go back several pages, because there's a lot of them down there now, because of this last year I've been pumping them out again.
Yep. You've been busy.
Yeah.
One fun thing is I love it when I can take people to my dad's house, because I'm like, you guys got to see the family pictures.
Yeah, I draw on the car of every one of you kids, and it's all on a wall.
Yep.
And I love that.
When we were younger, we got to pick a car, and my dad drew each and every one of them and put them up on the wall, and it's really cool. It's really pretty. It's super adorable.
But not only that, all the stuff here on my car that we've done as far as modifications and everything has either been A, donated by companies as far as sponsorship, or B, paid for by drawing cars for other people. So there's no debt incurred so far.
Nicely done. That's a smart way of going about that. And in costuming, costs of things, that can be a real big like factor into it. And so we do commissions for other people, and so you're doing that through your art,
Yes.
through helping others with their cars, through using your skills to help others, which is how like that overlaps with costuming as well. Is like we help each other with each other's skills to hopefully help ourselves not get into debt on our stuff too.
Oh, yes, because one of the things I find is a lot of kids will spend tons of money on their vehicle and then they can't afford it.
Right? Because like this can be an incredibly expensive hobby.
Right.
Yeah. And so keeping it up, maintaining it, you got to be smart about it, and I think you've done a pretty good job of that.
I think so far. I mean, I try to keep it conservative and not go hog wild. I mean, I'd love to build a 1,000 horsepower motor, but it's not going to happen.
Maybe one day.
Well, not right now, because the way the car drives with the power it has, I really don't need it anymore. Not really. It's a fun car to drive.
That's good. Yeah. And it's fun to ride in as well. I can't drive it. I can't drive manual.
That's automatic.
It's automatic? What?
Yeah, but you can manually shift it. I got you fooled.
Oh, you fooled me.
Yes.
Well, I'm probably not allowed to drive it because I would be too scared to. It's a nice car, Dad.
Thank you.
You've put a lot of love into it, and I'm glad that you're able to do this.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I'm here with
Jose,
Jose, and you are part of
Ogden Chrome.
Ogden Chrome. So what is Ogden Chrome?
We're a chrome plating company.
Chrome plating company. So you guys probably keep pretty busy.
Yeah, we're pretty busy right now with all the hot rods that are happening and everybody's building.
So what is your, I don't know, favorite thing about, I don't know, all of this? I don't know much about any of this,
I
actually,
guess
even though my dad is such a car person.
Yeah, it'd have to be seeing a car where it starts from to where it ends. You know, like the whole process throughout the whole build.
Seeing something get
and just
restored or just built from scratch kind of thing.
Yeah, and just to see our little bit of chrome be on the on a $1 million build is probably the coolest part.
Yeah, that's one thing about like cars stuff is it's so expensive.
Yeah,
like
it is.
The point that my dad's been able to do what he does without going super into debt has been phenomenal and surprising to me.
Yeah.
So like, for anybody getting into like car stuff, like would you have advice for them on how to like approach like planning out their car, or making sure they're not putting themselves into debt to make their dream come true?
I would say probably just buy a brand new car if you're trying to get yourself into debt with the hot rod. Yeah, it's just a lot of the stuff is just expensive. I would just say budget yourself as best you can and just stick to the budget is probably the number one thing I would say.
Yeah, take it one step at a time.
Yep. Because a lot of customers will just keep changing stuff and keep going and keep going and keep going. And they started with $50,000 budget and they're at $300,000.
Yeah.
So we always say just stick to your budget and be realistic with yourself of what you want to do.
Do you know anyone that like keeps like pictures of like the progress of their car and just kind of like how it evolves over time?
Yeah. A lot of our customers do that from start to finish, whether it's if they modify the quarter panel or the wheels or the trim or whatever, they keep a pretty good log of what they're doing.
Awesome.
So
what has been the like coolest car that you've ever worked on that came through, like one that just like blew your mind away or something?
They're all pretty cool, but I don't know. I'd say probably one of the Shelby Cobras that was actually part of Shelby's racing team from back in the days.
Like the Shelby?
Yeah, the Shelby, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yep, so yeah, we get to deal with a lot of cool cars. So yeah,
wow.
To say to pick the one, that'd probably be one of my favorite, just especially with the movies that just came out.
Yeah. Ford versus Ferrari, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I need to see that still.
Yeah, you have to, yeah. Yep. So yeah, I'd say that's probably my favorite one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So the next booth that we've come to is Cars for Kids. Would you introduce yourself, please?
You bet. My name is Rob Shelton, and I work with the Cars for Kids charity.
Awesome. And then you said that you focus with the Limitless event. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so myself and one of the owners or founders of the Cars for Kids charity got together and decided to put together a very unique event. We go out to Eagle Mountain, Utah every year, and they allow us to shut down about 3 miles of road where we get to see how fast we can get cars up to. So we've done it for 2 years. This year will be our third year, and it'll be on June 27th out in Eagle Mountain. Our first year, we got a car to go up to 207 miles an hour
Oh my
in
gosh.
that 3-mile stretch. And it's more than just putting your foot down as hard as you can on the gas pedal to see how fast you can go, because there's an S-curve involved. So you got to be able to have some driving technique to know how to navigate that S-curve. And cars are going in that S-curve probably around 100 to 120 miles an hour. So it's a pretty crazy event.
That's really cool. Do
Yeah.
you have to bring like certain cars, or do you just bring
Anyone
your
that wants to
car?
pay the money can be able to do it. So it's a charity event, so it's a way we raise money. So people pay between $2,000 to $4,000 to be able to
Wow.
drive their car in that event. All the proceeds from that event go to Make-A-Wish Utah to benefit the charity there and partnering with Cars for Kids. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That is so cool, man. I want to. Hey, Dad, do you think Pudgy Car would?
You might get up to 80.
He says it might get up to 80.
yeah.
Oh.
It's pretty surreal when you get up to those speeds. Myself, I've only gone 173 miles an hour on it, because when you go to those
Wow.
S curves, if you let off the gas, it takes so much more time to make up, and it's
Yeah.
about time, not necessarily distance. So it's a very unique event.
That's so cool. That is incredibly unique.
Yeah.
So do you know like what brought this event into being? Like how?
Yeah,
it founded and
so we
whatnot?
were, so I'm the one that founded it with, his name's Cougar with Lux Auto Spa, who also runs the Cars for Kids charity. And I sit on the city council in American Fork City, and so I get to know a lot about politics and how that works, and had this idea brought to us of, hey, maybe you guys could do a car event. And Eagle Mountain City was very good to work with. So with my political background and understanding how cities work, and Cougars on the car side, and how to market it to the car people, that really just brought the two parties together. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
So, on our podcast, we usually end with like a cosplay horror story where like, oh no, my costume fell apart while I was on stage, or I fell off stage, to, you know, they stuck their finger with hot glue. Do you have any car horror stories?
we try not to have those going 200 miles an hour.
You know, it seems like it might be a little bit more expensive
so
than burning yourself with hot glue.
every car is inspected and to a certain specification, and making sure. But last year we did have at the last half hour a rainstorm come across, which could add a bit of difficulty to it. Might be the
yeah.
same as ripping a costume. I don't know.
Hydroplaning is kind of scary.
It is,
That's
but
a little intense.
there was a Porsche 918. It's a very expensive and very well-designed car, and it got up to 190 miles an hour in the rain before we shut it off. So that was kind of the thing we had to do. We had to close it down about 20 minutes early, but the last car through did about 190 miles an hour still when the rainstorm was going. So
Wow.
pretty crazy, but yeah,
That'll definitely get your heart pumping.
it definitely would. And that car earlier in the day had an antelope that ran out on the middle of the road. So we've got flaggers, so maybe that's another one where
gosh.
he's taking off and going, over 100 miles an hour, and there's an antelope that jumps out. And luckily we have flaggers, like I said, that flagged early enough that he slowed down and had to turn around and come back and start again. So we are out in Eagle Mountain, and that tends to happen with wildlife occasionally.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a website or any
bet.
social media that people can look for
Absolutely.
to find out?
So Cars for Kids is the best way to go. I think I handed you that card.
Yes.
It has the website on it. So if you look right down here, it's c4drive.org.
All right. And I'll have that information on our blog site for anybody who wants to know more info.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for your time. You guys have a fun time.
You too.
All right.
So your name is?
Kenner Garrick.
Kenner Garrick. Awesome. So you had a really amazing story about your car, and would you mind retelling that? If that's okay.
So first off, I'll tell you the story of me and how I found the car, and then I'll tell you the story of the car. So when I was 6 years old, I got my very first Hot Wheels car, which is out in front of the car right now, and it's still in the box, and it's a black 1958 T-Bird, and I've always wanted a 58 from that, but it pretty much all started way before that when I was 3, when my uncle died, and when I was supposed to get his 57 Chevy, but I was too young to get the car then, so I pretty much just said, fine, I'll just start my own thing. So when I was 15, I was finally old enough to buy my own car, and I was like, hey, I kind of need something to like drive through high school and stuff. And so I pretty much was like, started looking, couldn't really find what I wanted, Then finally I came across this, and I was like, oh yes, that's exactly what I want. Black 58, it's got the big block, the 4-speed, the 4.9-inch rear end, it got everything.
This is way fancier than I think I have ever driven, like high school to now.
Well, looks can be deceiving. Remember, it's a 60-year-old car. It doesn't have seat belts, and the brakes are not power brakes, so it's terrible. But anyway, so I went down, looked at it, and turns out the guy was the original owner of the car. He ordered it in 58.
Wow.
And so he said he didn't want to sell the car, but he said he saw what he said this. He said, I see something in you that I have never seen anyone, even my kids, have, and I really want you to have this car. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I bought the car from him, and he died a month later and put this car on his headstone.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
And so anyways, after I got the car, I kind of was doing some research. I wanted to do some more research on it to see when it was built and what the history of it was. Mm-hmm. So I was doing some research on it, and then I really found out when the car was built and everything. But then the big thing was like I got a call one day, and it was from Ontario, Canada. Oh. I was like, what the heck? And I answer it, and they're like, is this Kenner? I'm like, yeah, what's up? Who is this? He's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm the manager of Nickelback. I'm like, the band? I'm like, he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh. I was like, what do you need me for? He was like, well, you have a piece of Nickelback history that's priceless. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh. He was like, you know the album All the Right Reasons, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's the song. That's his album, that the famous song Rockstar, Animals. That's the album. And he was like, yeah, well, you own the car that's on the album cover. I'm like, wait, what? He was like, yeah. I was like, do you have any documents that I can like see so that way it's the actual car? He's like, yeah. So he emailed it over to me, and and the VIN number was on it, matched everything. I was like, holy cow.
Wow.
And so, but the one thing that I was missing was the chrome hood scoop. And because when I got the car, it had a black hood scoop on it. I wanted to find the original chrome one that was on it with the album cover. That was the only thing that I was missing. Uh-huh. But the problem is the person who had it, Chad Kroger, the head singer of Nickelback. He had it.
Oh my gosh! Seriously?
He had it up on his wall inside of his house. So I was like, all right. So I was like, hey. So I asked the manager, like, hey, is there any way that I can get in contact with him? He was like, oh yeah. So he gave me his information to his guy, and then next thing you know, I talked to Chad. He's like, oh yeah, no problem.
Really?
Got it sent down, put on the car. That's the car. That's the hood scoop.
Not just the car, but also the...
Oh yeah, that's the actual hood scoop.
Oh
that if you look up the album cover, you will see. And that hood scoop is such a pronounced piece on the album cover because it's a top view of the car. It's the piece that puts it all together.
Wow.
The car, a sunset, but it's the hood scoop that puts it all together.
Gorgeous.
And then, then after I found that out, I was like, holy cow. But then he was like, but wait, there's more. And I was like, what? He was like, we want you to drive it up on stage for our anniversary tour in Las Vegas. I was like, what? They're like, yeah. I was like, where's the concert at? He's like, Las Vegas. I'm like, easy. That's an easy one. So I drove it down to Vegas, and I thought they just wanted it parked out front. So I parked it out front, and as soon as the concert starts, the manager comes out yelling, like, what are you doing? I'm like, what? He's like, you know you're supposed to drive this up on stage, right? I'm like,
like literally
what?
on stage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, the car's not even clean. He's like, so? It's dark in there anyways. I'm like, you have a point. So I pulled the car around back, and then all of a sudden they start flagging me to go, and I start going, and as I'm going, I hear them starting to play Rockstar, and I was like,
oh man!
And I just got the chills. I'm like, oh! So as soon as I get up there, I flipped on. I wanted a full effect, so I flipped on the headlights. I pressed the button on the floor, so that way all four of them could turn on, and I rolled up on stage, and oh yeah, and then as soon as I pull up, the whole that's when the chorus started. It's like, whoa, it was so cool. And I looked behind me, and then there was a picture of the album cover I was like, oh. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, but we just announced about a month ago that they're gonna do an All the Right Reasons tour. Ooh. Just for the album. So they're gonna play the album cover to cover.
Wow.
And I want the car for it. But I was like, no. They were like, why? I was like, how about this? You guys come to Salt Lake and do a Salt Lake show, and I'll bring the car to that show. They're like, done.
Oh my gosh.
So they're coming to Salt Lake.
That is mind-blowing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and this car will be out front.
Sick.
And then, so yeah, that's that story of the car. And then, so while I was doing research on it back when I bought it, I had Ford look up the VIN number on it so that way I could get like the build date and everything.
Uh-huh.
And it was built on July 14th of 1958, so it was a very late in 58 when it was built. But that's because the guy I bought it from custom ordered this car.
Ah.
In 58, the black was super rare. It was super rare to have a black car. Okay. But what was even more rare was a blue white interior, because the only interior colors you can get for a T-Bird were black, white, and red.
Oh.
So the blue they got out of they got the vinyl out of a Fairlane. So the color is out of a Fairlane, and they just painted all the other trim pieces blue to match it.
Wow.
And then yeah, but
it looks really good with the black too, like.
I know. And
dang. What's
so funny is the reason why. So I asked his wife, because his wife was still alive. I was like, hey, so why did he order this car the way it was? Because what I also found out is this is the only car to leave the factory with a 4-speed manual transmission.
Oh.
This is the only
really
58. It really is a one-of-a-kind car. And he was like, the reason why he did this is because he wanted a car he could go beat Chevys on Friday nights. And he wanted to do it in class and style and not be able to get caught. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, think about it. It's got the police interceptor in engine, the biggest one you could get. It's got a 4-speed manual transmission, one more gear than any of those cars ever had back then, a Ford 9-inch rear end, which is the toughest rear end ever made, with limited slip, so both tires spin, and it's painted. And she said the reason why he wanted it black is because that way he could hide from the cops.
Wow.
At night.
Oh my gosh, that's those are all amazing stories. Like, oh my gosh.
It's true. Yeah. And then when I got the car, I wanted to relive his legacy, so I kept the paint original. I got it all polished out, because when I got it, it was so bad. It literally looked like a matte black. It was so bad.
Shining now.
Oh yeah, it's insane now. And then I wanted to kind of upgrade a little bit, so I built the engine, built the trans, and the engine now makes around 600-700 horsepower.
Nice.
Which is insane, but it's better than 300 that it made stock. And for a car that weighs 3,800 pounds, it's a beast. And then
you put a lot of love and care into this. And like
for the past 4 years, yeah. Yeah,
and for continuing a legacy this is incredible.
Oh yeah, so this car came out of a little small town called Mount Pleasant, just down south of where I live, and even when I drive through this car, even when I drive through there in this car, like, oh yeah, that was Verdi's car. That's Verdi's car, and I was like, yeah, and they love it down. Everyone knows this car, and everyone loves this car. Like the actual owner's, the original owner's wife is actually going to come up and see this car this weekend.
Aww.
Hopefully, yeah. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens, but.
The amount of memories that are attached to this is
it's amazing. Yeah, cool. It gives me the chills just thinking about it. Like, this car is going, like, he didn't want to get rid of this, and I don't blame him, but he saw what I saw in this car, and he was like, you remind me of myself, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But this car is never leaving my family.
Yeah.
And it's great.
You definitely, like, feel like you're destined, in a way to take
Oh,
care
yeah.
of this car.
And the interesting thing is, and the reason why I bond with this car so much is because growing up, I always had a stuttering issue. Just barely. And I've always had it when I was a kid, and you always used to make fun of me for it and saying that I was the weird kid. And it shows pretty much that. And having to go through that, I never really had anything to like that actually shows myself in something, and this car really shows me, I guess you can say. It shows because the paint's not perfect, the engine's not completely degreased, the interior's ripped in some places. It's not the most perfect car, but I'm not the most perfect person. But then yet there are small things to it that make it great, and that's everything that's put together. It runs, it drives, it does big burnouts going down the road. That's all that matters, and that's pretty much all I care about. It runs, drives, performs like amazing, and all I built it for was to please myself. I didn't build it to please anyone. I didn't build it to please him. I didn't build it to do anything. But it just happens to win a lot of car shows. So I must be doing well. Oh, that's a lot.
A lot.
But
that works.
the big thing that really kind of made it known that I was actually doing something and that I was actually making a difference is because my big dream was come here to Autorama. So back in 2018, I applied for it, and I remember getting the letter in the mail that I was accepted. And I was like, oh my gosh, finally something I am accepted in. And so I thought it was just an honor just to be accepted. So when I rolled in here, my spot back then just happened to be my birth year, which was 2000. I was like, this is kind of ironic. It was up front. It was right in front of the doors. So my car was the first car you'd see when you walk in. It was so cool, and it was cool because so during the award show, I didn't think my car was going to win it because I saw what cars I was competing against. Like, no way. Mm-hmm. I was like, my car is just a beat up old car that's leaking oil as we speak right now still. And I'm like, there's no way. The next thing you know, they like, okay, we're gonna announce the 59 conservative category. I'm like, cool, whatever. I'm probably just gonna leave. And they announced third was a 55 Chevy, second was a 57 Chevy, and first place they paused. I was like, all right, cool. And as soon as I went to get up to leave, they said Kenner Garrick and his 1958 Ford Thunderbird. I was like, oh, no way! So I stood back and I couldn't even think. I was like, oh my gosh. And I just started to tear up and I was bawling. And I've never been this emotional. But they held up the first place trophy, which I have in the trunk still. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I went up there and I didn't even care who it was. I gave him a big hug. Aww. And I was like, yeah, but the main person that was there for me was a guy named Cam Miller. He runs HS Customs up in Logan. He usually has cars here for this, but he doesn't this year. But he was, my parents weren't even here for this, but he was there with me. He came up on stage and he gave me a big hug. He carried me off stage because I couldn't walk. Because I just sat on the ground. I just couldn't believe it. And then, so that was on the set. And then Sunday there was the big show, like the big awards, like the top 10 hot rod, it was like legit. The big glass awards, like the actual ISCA awards. And I was sitting there with Cam and we were just sitting, and he gets up and gets some awards and stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. And then then Sherry gets up there and she was like, hey, we have a special award that we would like to give out, and it's for people that are 19 and under. And unfortunately, we've never had someone 19 and under, so we've never really been able to give this award to. But we finally have someone to do it. And I was like, well, it's not going to be me. The next thing you know, she's like, and she points right to me. She's like, Kenner Garrick. I was like, oh my God. Like another one, and the same thing happened. I broke down bawling. I was like, I just look like the most pathetic person. I've cried at both of these award shows. I'm just so pathetic. But it was a big thing.
That's actually really cool because again, like when you come to these things, like there's not usually a lot of younger people out here doing this.
And that's what I'm trying to show, is because that's when the students came in this morning. Is I tried to be here, so I was like, hey, this is what you guys can do. I've been doing it since I was 15 years old, and I'm still continuing to do this, and I'm going to keep doing this until I don't care. If I die in the car, I don't care.
So if there's so let's say that there's an aspiring car enthusiast in our listeners here, what advice would you give them to help them get started and like not go super into debt?
Well,
like that's a problem with both hobbies.
That is a hard. I mean, don't go super into debt. That's kind of. I mean, that's hard. I mean, here's the thing. Me, I have this car and I put so much money into it, but then I have a 2013 Ford F-350 Platinum I paid $40,000 for. Whoa. That I also have. That's my daily driver. And I mean, it's not like I'm rolling around the most money in the world, because look what I spend most of my money on. That truck in this car. I mean, but the best advice I can give to you is just, no matter what people say or do what you love. Even if it's just for cars or anything you do. Do what you want to do. It's your life, not theirs. Do what you want. And I mean, I'm trying to think of a better way to put that, to kind of explain it, but that's like the best way to put it. But like, it's your thing. I mean, my car's like guaranteed you won't see another car around this whole place that looks just like mine, because you won't, because it's my style, it's what I want to do, and another thing is be what you want to be, and not what someone else has already become. Live your own, well, like my wristband. It says leave a legacy, and that's been my motto. I've actually had this longer than I've had the car, and I wear it every single day. Wow! Because it reminds me to build something so people can remember me by. For example, if I died tomorrow, I want something that someone will remember me by, like, oh yeah, look, there's his car, or this is what he did, that was so cool, or he was the nicest guy ever, or da 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 da. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm just, yeah. but leave a legacy, build what you want to be, and just be, I guess.
I love that.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much of that is also kind of like an anthem in cosplay.
Oh yeah.
Like, be who you want to be,
yeah.
Do what you want to do, and like, even when like people show up and they both have the same costumes, there's differences in them and how they created them, and it's like uniquely
and they put their heart
theirs.
And soul into it.
Yes.
See, it's like costumes for you is like cars for these guys.
Yeah.
See, look, there's a difference between me and Rob over there in that Gran Torino. He put so much effort in that car, because when he came back, because he was in the Navy, and when he came back, he had really bad PTSD, just like my uncle with his 57. He wanted something to show that. So what he did is he built that car.
Yeah.
And me going through all that stuff through school and not having friends, and I wanted something that was my own, and ta-da! I just needed something to get my mind off everything and show people what I really am, and it's
uniquely you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kenner. Like, this is incredible.
It's good to get it off my chest, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's good to know that people are going to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I think people just, when they see me in this car, like, oh, his dad bought him that car, which I hate. I hate when people say that my dad bought me this car, because he didn't. I'm like, that's just stupid. And I mean, but it's good to know that people are going to hear this, and people are going to hopefully get something from this. If not, that's fine, but at least it's out. At least it's out there.
It's out there.
But I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks.
And I mean, I hope this turns into a huge success.
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely love this car. It is gorgeous.
I just wish we were outside so I could fire it up and show you what it actually does. Because looks are one thing, but noise is the most important part. You need all the sense. You need all the senses.
I remember when, like, well, I'll tell you that story in a minute. But first of all, do you have any social media things that you want to give a shout out to if people want to follow you?
So if you want to follow the car, probably my my big thing is my Facebook page, which is just my name, Kenner Garrick, Kenner, Garrick, Garrick. Or you can follow my Instagram, which is the same thing, but it has a period in the middle, Kenner.Garrick.
Okay.
So if you want to follow that, that'd be great. You don't have to. It's fine. It's just most of the car stuff will be on the Facebook page, where my Instagram's more personal. But
a gorgeous car, though. Like, seriously.
Oh,
thank you so much. So we are at Salty Motorworks, driven by what moves you. So they are a wrap company,
yeah,
right?
We do other stuff, window tinting, ceramic.
I'm going to scooch in here, sorry.
Window tinting, ceramic coats, vinyl wraps, some performance stuff if it's bolt-on. We just like to make cars look sexy. And,
like, they really do. Like, the one that's sitting right here is amazing. I'll make sure to put a photo on the blog. So, like, what has been, like, the craziest car that you've ever worked on?
This McLaren 720S is probably the craziest car we've worked on because it's hard to outdo this vehicle.
It's gorgeous, and, like, I don't know, I remember walking by earlier and just being like, oh my gosh, that color. It's like this deep brown, for those who are listening, like, it's beautiful, and I actually would have never guessed, like, is that a wrap?
This is a vinyl wrap, and it's been funny. A lot of people are blown away that this is a wrap. I actually had a guy walk by that said, "This looks awesome. I just get so upset when people wrap cars like this," insinuating that he thought that this was a paint job.
Oh.
I just didn't say anything. I just left that one alone.
So that's when you know you've done real good.
That's what we go for.
That's amazing. So you've fooled the experts. So
Yes.
That's actually an interesting thing within cosplay, is that sometimes somebody will come up with a costume, you're like, oh my gosh, is that an actual metal armor? Mm-hmm. And then you find out it's foam. And you're just like, what the heck?
So that's what you're going for.
Yeah, and so it's like being able to like get so good at your craft that you can fool people into thinking it's something completely different. That's when you know you've really, really made it, I think.
Yeah, craftsmanship is important to us. I respect craftsmanship, whether it's carpentry or fabrication. Really, anybody that masters their craft, I really respect. Drawing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good stuff. So we end each episode with like a cosplay horror story. Mm-hmm. So do you have any like car horror stories or something? It could be from something like super scary to something that was really silly, like, you know, I've burned myself on hot glue a number of times, you know.
So actually, we'll just do one with this car.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, I guess Sheridan pulled it up on a forum to see what was going on. We drove the car out to a photo shoot yesterday, right before we had to be here.
Whoa.
Get in the car, and it wouldn't start. So
no.
Yeah. And I guess the way to alleviate that is you just push super hard on the brakes when you try to start it. But there was about 20 minutes of sheer panic because I had no tools and the vehicle was lifeless.
Oh no.
So there's a scary car story.
I like it. Oh my gosh. I'd be pretty terrified. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, here with Kenner again, and he's got an amazing horror story that happened to his car once.
So, funny story is we were at a car show once, and we were about to pack up, and all of a sudden it just starts downpouring. Like, rain just feels like it's just wet. Like, you would stand outside for not even 10 seconds and you'd be soaking wet. And so we all packed up, we were driving home, and I was at a stoplight. And all of a sudden, I feel the back of my car lift up, move about 2 or 3 feet, and then drop back down. Uh-oh. And I was like, oh crap! And all of a sudden, water starts rushing into my car, like through the door jambs and everything, like firewall, door jambs, everything was just getting filled with water.
That's so scary.
Yeah, and I was like, and my windshield wipers are broken. So I can't use those. So the windows are rolled down. So the car just filling up with water because of the rain and all the water coming in from the door jams. And so, anyways, finally was able to get the car home. And then that week after, my car club, the Left Behind Car Club, they bought me a paddle and wrote all their names on it. And so that way I can paddle my ass home.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. So I've been wandering around Autorama, and there's so many incredible cars here. I am now with
Mark Pittman.
And your car that you have with you here today is?
Originally is a 2018 narrow body Hellcat, and I had it converted to a Richard Petty Hellcat.
Wow. So when you mean converted, what does that mean? Sorry, I'm not super I know my dad's a super car nerd, but I'm very new to this still.
Richard Petty is a NASCAR legend. Him and his father are dating back to the 40s and 50s. And when Richard Petty retired from racing, he needed a new source of income, and he started a shop called Petty's Garage. And part of his shop customizes modern Mustangs, Chargers, Mustangs, Camaros, and Challengers, obviously. And so I sent my car there and to be converted, partly because of his legacy, which he is deep into the car that I have. So that's the Petty Hellcat part of it.
Wow.
It's the Petty name on my car.
That's really cool. So what was the process for getting this all started, and were there any road bumps in the way?
Yes, it started, I bought the car. I had a previous build done by a television show organization, and I got this car. I was just going to leave it bone stock, not change anything, but about 3 months into it, I started looking for the right place to customize it. And so I did a lot of research. I contacted them in August of 2018, and the car didn't end up there until December. But there was constant contact and research from August to December of 2018, deciding on how I was going to do it, what the end result would be, what parts would be included, before I actually sent it to them. And it was sent from Salt Lake City, Utah to Level Cross, North Carolina. So I didn't even see the car during its transformation for 14 months.
Wow.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It's a long time to be without a friend.
Yes. Basically it is. The cars become your personality. This is me in metal form. This is a machine, but it's me, like we were talking about cosplay earlier. This is my costume right here.
Yeah. So, tell me about your color choices for it. And
green has been a color that's been involved in my life since I was little. I was raised with a large family, of a combination of stepkids and original family members. And somewhere along the line, when we had a house built, my mother gave each one of our bedrooms a color theme. So the garbage can, the door, the carpet, the bedspread, and the curtains were all the same color, and I ended up with green. So that's where the green started. This green is actually retro to the early 1970s heritage of the Dodge Challenger, and it's called F8 green. It's a darker green. My previous build was a lime green color called Sublime.
Oh.
So green's a special place for me. I like it.
That's really cool. Green's also my favorite color, so I'm just yes.
There you go.
So each episode we usually end with a cosplay horror story where it could be something down to I fell off the stage to you burned yourself with hot glue kind of thing. Do you have any horror stories where you had to panic over something with your car? Could be this car or the Sublime or...
Well, even after literally $75,000 and being gone for 14 months and the whole build taking 18 months, it came back with a severe leak the front of the carbon fiber drive shaft, and it came back with a leak where my axles are rubbing against the shock absorbers and leaking grease. So after all this time and perfection and money was spent creating my persona in a machine, it came back broken, you'd say, and that was pretty crushing.
Yeah. Aw.
Broken might be a more severe word, but I would consider it inoperable until these things were taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I sent it to a shop that's over here, Lux Auto Spa, and they took care of it and then did their normal detailing for it to bring it here. And details are everything in this kind of an event, and you got to have a creative personality, because there's a set, like a television set, that the car has to sit in that coincides with the car, and they can't clash.
Yeah.
Every piece has to fit with the car.
Yeah, so like tell me about your setup here, because like everybody has such a different, like they've got different colors, they've got different stanchions, they've got different things that are set out around the car. I was talking with a Kenner, he's a kid over with the Thunderbird.
Okay.
And he was talking about how like he had a little Hot Wheels car set out in front of his that was the Thunderbird that he eventually got, and things like that. So what about yours? How's yours all set up?
This particular setup, first, the flooring was very important. This is a Salt Lake company that invented this flooring, so I wanted to stay with something that was in Utah, plus it's very high quality. But they only have about an 8-color color palette, and matching this shade of green was very difficult.
Yeah.
So I went with red and black, but I also wanted to stay away from it looking like a game board, a checkers game board.
Yeah.
So I went with this mirrored chrome diamond plate look for a third color. Okay. Then I combined the red and black PVC pipe. This is a furniture pipe to make like pool ladders, lawn chairs and stuff like that to go with it. If you laid this right on top of the red and the black, it's incredible how well it matches. And then I continued that theme with even my props.
Yeah.
With they're sitting up with black pipe and red pipe.
Little pipe stands.
And I also did it with propping up my car. The trunk lid is propped up with PVC pipe.
Oh my gosh, it is.
It all goes together. Then, even though this is a square, I have my car pointed corner to corner, and each spot along the way has something else that ties to the car. The wheels and tires that were taken off here, a drawing of my car.
Yep.
My show board that sort of explains to passersby what the car is all about. The far corner over there has the documentation from where it was built, proving that it was a one of one and that it was certified. And then there's further documentation on the other side that from the factory it was only one of two built. So it's a very unique car to begin with. I made it more unique and still use my own personality. Every choice here is my own, by color, by quality, by brand name, everything.
I love that. I love it's got your personality showing through. It's got a theme that it all fits together with, and like I also love like the documentation of like where things came from. In cosplay contests, documentation is a huge deal of bringing in, evidence of like what you've put together, how you put it together, being able to show judges what you can't show them. Like, at a cosplay contest, we can't open up the hood and show you what's underneath all the time, so we have photos and things like that. So
that's one of the advantages of putting the car air like this. The heart of my car was things done underneath the car that you can't see. And you got all these
neat mirrors underneath to reflect that. People can actually see it without having to get up too close, too.
That's 13 5-foot-long mirrors and 20 lights just to show underneath the car.
Wow. Well, it's really, really beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Like, this is fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. My car, with its racing history through Richard Petty's name, who's literally on the side of my car, when I sent my car there, I became a part of his motorsports history. Everybody knows who Richard Petty is, who's in motorsports. I've listened to people standing around my car mention Richard Petty with enthusiasm because they know what that means. It's the persona that I carry. Now I have a Richard Petty car. Okay. Then a friend of mine has two cars that he converted from two replicas from the Fast and Furious series. And that's his cosplay version of what I do with the motorsports. He did with replicating cars from a movie. So it'd be like wearing the costume of a character in a movie. He did it in car form.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Okay, good.
Thank you. This button. All right. So I'm here with Steve Darnell.
Yep.
Right? From Welder
Vegas.
Up.
Welder Up. Vegas Rat Rods was a show we did on Discovery Channel.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So my dad is like, he's watched all your stuff. And I should have brought him over here too. Because I'm just like, the most I've watched of like car shows on TV is I've seen a couple of these when I've been visiting him, and like the craftsmanship that you put into this is amazing. Like the details that you put into each of these cars, the welding, like that's just a skill in and of itself. Can you tell me more about like the projects that you've worked on, your favorite ones, or?
I guess, there's so many of them. I think I've built over 60 cars, maybe 70.
Oh my goodness.
That's a lot of them. And each one of them are detailed to the max. They got different things in them, different... I guess the way that I look at it is a lot of them, when you build them, you have to find the purpose to build it, and then you have to live it. No different than an actor.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a part in a movie, you have to live that part for a while until you can get into it with your mentally. You have to get into it. So like the Joker, I had to live a Joker for probably 3 weeks. I had to really get into it, and I built another car like that. It was called the Clown Car, and I lived old freak shows, and I looked up every kind of freak. The freaky stuff they would make people do that had a birth defect was unbelievable. You know what I mean? But when you really look into all the freaky stuff, I lived it. Like I would sleep with clown music in my ears, so I would dream about it, like almost. So then when I'd come in the next day to work on this thing, I knew what I wanted. And same thing with the Joker. I looked up all the creepy, weird Jokers because I'm more twisted. I like it a little bit more twisted than the normal. I want it to be almost kind of demon-ish, mixed with it.
And you can see that in the car itself, like the design in it and whatnot. Like you can see that kind of speaking through it. It has this kind of twisted nature to it, and it's really wicked looking.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. A lot of the other ones that I have are kind of the same way.
Very cool.
Even my truck, like this big semi that we're leaning on right now. It's
I love the hole in the side so you can see into the engine. It's really a nice touch to it.
It's really kind of makes your mind go. It explodes your brain when you look at it, and that's what you want. That's the attention that they get, you know what I mean? And so I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think that, I don't know. Just to build a regular car seems very boring to me. So I would rather be doing something that's a little bit more on the edge. You put something that makes 1,200 horsepower in something that weighs 1,500 pounds. That's insane.
Yeah.
And that's the Joker.
And that's actually been a very interesting theme today as I've been going around and talking with all the people who have their cars on display. They talk about what they've put of themselves into their vehicles and how it's not just the car is part of them, they're part of the car in a way, and how they use it to express themselves.
Well, and I think a lot and now in today's society with this rat rod thing, a lot of people are putting their fixtures of their grandpa and their things that they might have found in their grandma's backyard, and they're finding pieces that mean something and they're installing them in these cars, and now you have something that is a piece of you instead of just a car that you bought and you're going to go out and run it around and then get rid of it. These are actually handcrafted, very detailed out vehicles.
Design work, the detail, everything is just stunning on all of these. I really love the Joker, actually.
I'm a huge fan of the Joker.
I want to keep turning to look at it, but then I'll be away from the microphone.
Oh, no, that was fine. We can actually, let's walk over. We can look at it while you're on there. So
awesome.
If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Yeah. How long did this one take?
Well, with our crew in the shop, it probably took about 30 days.
30 days.
We really worked hard on that.
Oh my gosh.
This would usually take a guy 2 to 3 years to build.
Yeah.
And when we're doing it on TV, we work 12 to 18 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
And all of us work pretty much nonstop.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work. But this car's got some really cool details. I don't know if you can see there's a little creepy Joker right here.
Oh, cute.
So when the lights come on, I don't know if they will.
There we go. That's really cool.
And then in the back, you can see the back window says no joke.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the front, you can see his eyeballs. So you got the mouth, and then you can see his eyes in the window.
Oh! Okay, that's super cute.
Yeah, so even at night, it turns to a different creature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
so
got an evolution to it.
At night, you turn it on, and it just changes a bunch more stuff on it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. The quirky little stuff, all the little ha-has all over it.
Yeah. Do you feel like the like doing the TV show while building these, does it like add to it, or do you feel like it sometimes takes away, like having to do it on such a time crunch?
It's kind of both, because I really want to, like, you know, when you're doing it on TV, you really want to show the most that you can do, but at the same time, you're time limited, so you got to take a lot away too.
Yeah.
And there's an evenness that you have to even out with the car. You don't want it to be too gaudy. You want it to be just right.
Yeah.
And, you know,
gotta have that balance.
And sometimes you got, it is about balance. And if you don't have that, there's a lot of times where it just doesn't turn out right without the right balance. And, you know, I'm kind of OCD that way with it, really. Like, I'm like, I want it this way, and that's the way it's going to have to be.
I can totally understand that when I'm working on a costume. It's just like, you get to this point where you're like, this piece isn't turning out right. You throw it away and you start out completely over, because it's like you got to have it be just what you want it to be.
Yeah, the way you want it.
Yeah.
And it's really weird, especially when you're kind of an artist. It's probably doesn't make sense to anybody else in the world but you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone's like, well, it looks fine. And it's like, no, it's garbage.
Right. It's not what I want.
Yeah.
But then when they see it done, then they're like, oh, yeah, I get it. Okay, I get it. I understand. But yeah, it's cool.
Do you ever have any moments where, like, you just are in the middle of a project and you just feel like it's not going to make it? I always call it the part where my costume, it looks hideous and I hate it. I hate everything about it. And I usually have to have someone, like, push me on to keep going to finish it, and then I usually feel better later.
There's sometimes where you get into a project, you're excited about starting it, then you get into it and realize how much work it is.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh my gosh, am I gonna finish this thing? I mean, because it's so much work, and it goes through what I call like a teenager stage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because when babies are born, they're really cute.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they're so cute. But then you go through your teenage years where you're kind of awkward.
Yeah.
And you're not together yet. Like, you're kind of unsure. You're a little goofy. You're not unsure about your athletic ability. But then when you start to come into being more mature, then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to see how this is starting to look. And then
seeing it come together.
Right. And then once it comes into its full maturity, where what it's going to be, that's when you're like, okay, now I can work on the details. But it's definitely like a human being growing from a baby to a human person, like a grown person, I guess. And, you know, and then you just add the details to it. But there is a phase where it's very awkward, you know, and it might need braces and, you know, something needs to be fixed on it, you know what I mean? But once it comes into its full maturity, then it's cool.
Yeah. And the Joker's super cool.
Yeah. You would, and I know you would like the Joker's. One of my favorites. I have a clown car. You could look it up online. Just look up the Welder Up clown car.
Welder Up clown car.
And it had a Coney Island Ferris wheel ride on the back of it from 1932.
That's sick.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Really sick. Yeah.
Whoa. So let's say somebody like listening in is like, oh man, they're looking up your stuff and they're like, this is super cool. How would they, like, what advice would you give them if they wanted to get started on something like this?
Well, I mean, you know, something like this is like, I've got years of experience on welding and fabricating, and but none of them are the same. So every time I do it, it's a new learning curve. It's a new experience. Okay. I mean, once you get the basics of learning how to weld and stuff like that, but every one of them is different. I think that it just really depends on the desire. How much do you really want it? And because you start a project like this, you better be ready for it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of work, a lot of dedication, but there's so many guys out there right now that are building these that just love it. And then once you build one, you build another one, and you build another one, and it becomes your life. But you know, it's
like how costumes work.
yeah. Once you get started, you do one, then you want to do another one.
My co-host has made over 300 costumes. I'm not near that. I'm more around 50, but yeah, I can see that. There's gotta make more and more and more.
And I did a little costume building actually myself. I did a music video with Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, that's so cool.
And we did a video called House of the Rising Sun, and I dressed all the people.
Really?
Yeah, all the girls. I brought 44 girls to my house, and I dressed 3 of them, and I told the other girl that was the decorator that does clothes, I said, make them all kind of look like that. And then the dudes, I go, this is what we want to look like. And then I brought all the cars in the desert, and it was 3-day music video. We shot it. You should check it out.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
House of the Rising Sun.
I love that song.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it was a really cool one. And then, but I think, you know, for the most part, it's just no matter what project it is, like you building costumes. I mean, I look at it like it's a challenge.
Yeah.
You don't know for sure what you're going to build. You don't know how it's going to turn out right away.
Yeah.
You have an idea.
Yep.
But as you get involved in it, you start to look at it like, you know, this could be, this could be more now. This is even better.
It evolves and grows.
Yeah, it does. And that's what's so fun about it. It has to evolve, you know. But, you know, it's a good time. And, you know, I just think that people just really got to have that desire, you know.
Awesome. So on each of our episodes, we always end with what we call our cosplay horror stories. Do you have a car horror story you'd like to share?
Gosh,
I can tell you one of mine.
What's that?
Well, it's not a car. Well, I do actually have a car one. So my dad, he's gonna get crap for this. I think it was in his Barracuda. I sat down in it. I was so excited to go and ride with him. I was like maybe 10 years old, and I hopped in the car, and my dad was like, "Okay, I'm gonna close the door now." And I remember sitting in the seat and being like, "I can't see over the dashboard. I was too short." So I grabbed the side of the car and lifted myself.
Your hand in the door?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Slammed my fingers and I was like, what?
Oh, that. I seen my grandma slammed my grandpa's fingers in the door one time, and they were stuck in there. Like, we had to open the door to get his hand out. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't know, like, I know of one thing, like this big green truck right here.
Yeah.
When I got it loaded with cars on it and I'm going down the freeway, people freak out.
It looks cool.
It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I'm going down, and I was in Vegas. I was going to my shop, and all these cars are up next to me taking pictures. Well, the traffic came to a halt, and it was a 3-car pileup.
Oh my gosh.
It caused, and it's been more than once. That thing's caused a wreck. Yeah. So, but yeah. I mean that kind of stuff is really cool. I mean, it's not cool that they wreck, but it's cool that it gets that much attention. But
yeah.
But no, if these people want to see these cars, they can just go to Welder Up. You can go to welderup.com. My Instagram's Welder Up Vegas, and my YouTube channel is just Welder Up. So I got my own channel. There's a lot of stuff on there. Yeah. That's usually where I'm at.
Definitely check it out, guys. So I am here currently with a very unique and really cool car person. Your name is?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, and can you tell me about your car here?
Well, my car has a lot of dimension, and I want to represent a lot of, I don't know how to describe it, but a lot of detail, what autistic kids would feel like. I wanted to do like a 3D because I think autism is 3-dimensional. We're not 2-dimensional, we are 3-dimensional. I think that I have a lot of hidden puzzle pieces in my car as well because I want people to see. You can't see autism, but autism's there since it's neurological disability.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on to this car, but it's settled. The puzzle pieces are settled. They're not everywhere. They're just, it's unique. It really is.
And I love it. Like, you can look at the engine and see that there's like puzzle pieces inside of there. And and like you said, it's not like it's everywhere. It's subtle. The more you start looking at it, the more you find these like cute hidden puzzle pieces just all over it. And I love how you mentioned like the 3D, the depth to it, to you, to the car, and how just the detail just pops on this thing.
Yeah, I also have a storyboard with my car that has my own personal story. Not just anything about the car. It has things that what autism is, and then it says my story of when I found out and how.
And would you mind sharing your story?
So I found out when I was about 13 years old that I was diagnosed with autism. I was confused. I was frustrated before that. I didn't know exactly where I fit in because I was an outcast. People would put me in the corner. They would get mad at me. I wouldn't go to prom. I wouldn't go to any dances because nobody accepted it, right?
Aww.
That's why I'm doing acceptance. I want to change this world. And I want to make people more accepting towards kids with autism, not just aware. I don't believe that we should look at somebody and be like, oh, they have autism. I believe that we should accept anybody that has, whether a disability like autism, anything like that.
I was like, you guys are people too. You have likes, you have dislikes, you have hobbies, you have passions and all those things. And I can see that coming through in you. You just look so excited and full of life and just excited about talking about all of this, and like I can see it in your car.
Yeah.
Your persona comes through in that, and it's really beautiful.
Thanks. I just really want to show people like this is my passion. I love to do things like this, love to create things, and it's not always about the puzzle piece itself. It's about creativity. It's about what matters in life. And my puzzle pieces are three-dimensional, like I was saying, but they are not all together. They are flipping, they are turning, they are something unique and something so life-changing and different. We are so much more than the puzzle piece. We are so much more than people think we are. We just have to move past the persona, like we are, because we're not just a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
We just need to move past that and be like, we need to be accepted. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does, yes. And like, again, I love all of this. Can you tell me about the Cookie Monster also added into your car here?
The Cookie Monster we have because I named it Cookie Monster when we bought it.
Aww.
Like about 2 years ago, we got this car, and I named it the Cookie Monster because I felt like Cookie Monster fits it. So I wanted to put on the shirt tower brace that powered by cookies.
Oh, I do see that. That's cute. Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be turning. I wanted it to show dimension. I didn't want things to be like 2D, like I can see it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that. I wanted people to get interested. I wanted to make people excited. I want to make inspirational stories. I want this to be inspirational for, people to come to me and get that inspiration.
I think you're definitely succeeding. I mean, you drew me over here. I was like, I gotta talk to this girl. And like, again, this is so well put together. I love the puzzle pieces for your set. I love the Cookie Monster dolls, and the name of the car is so cute.
Yeah.
And just, your story is amazing as well. Like, thank you so much for all that you do for this, and I don't know, thank you.
No problem.
So let's say that somebody listening has autism and they're interested in cars. Like, what advice would you give them?
If they are interested in cars, they should just follow their passion. Just follow your passion. Follow your dream. See where it takes you, because it might take you just the right avenue, and it might take you farther in life. Just whatever your passion is, not just about cars. I say go for it. If you want to be an advocate for autism, go for it. You can be an advocate for autism. There's nobody to stop autistic people from living their dreams.
Yes.
They have the power to live their dreams and get to their full potential, because they just need the encouragement. Like, everybody needs encouragement to get there. But I believe so wholeheartedly, people with autism, they can go so far in life, and nothing's going to stop them.
I believe that too. I've got cousins with autism, and they are just the most brilliant and amazing people to hang out with, chat with, and just like, they work on video games, they work on programming and all those types of things, and it's just like, it's so fascinating when, it's so much more than, it doesn't define them. There's so much more than that. Like, you're a car enthusiast. You have this love for Cookie Monster. You have this love for who you are. And it's amazing. So thank you so much for your time. So one more thing to add to the autism acceptance. So autism does not have a look. If you guys look up at Pieces of the Puzzle, that's where you can find this car and this amazing young woman and her story online. So thank you guys. All right, I am now here with at Hot Rod Shows and Spider-Man. So as for me coming here, I didn't actually expect to see somebody in full costume. So this actually was a fun surprise for me as a cosplayer myself. So we have Doc and Spider-Man. So how many events do you guys do in a year with getting the Spidey guy out here?
We get Spidey at about 8 events a year. We're a nationwide tour of Autoramas and World of Wheels shows. So we go everywhere from Houston, Texas to Indianapolis, Chicago, and then here in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
So we keep Spidey busy. He's busy, and he's seen a lot of the country that he normally doesn't get to see, because usually
I'm in New York City.
He's in New York City, so so and every once in a while he's got to call back and do interviews. He's not used to he's used to doing interviews like Daily Bugle and everything, so he's got to go through that. So we keep him busy.
Got to avoid that J. Jonah Jameson.
That's right.
So you guys help run Autorama?
Yes.
That's so cool. Okay, I did not know that.
Yep, we're the promoter and producer of it. So we've got our Ford versus Ferrari cars that are here from the actual motion picture.
I know, I was dying over those. Amazing.
Those cars have won an Oscar. I wonder if have you ever won an Oscar, Spider-Man?
Well,
he's very humble. Yeah. That's one thing that's humble. And I was gigging Spider-Man there, but his work is so much more important than just a little statue. But we bring all the cars in. We bring some different features. So our featured cars here, Ford versus Ferrari, and then we try to bring something up for the kids, because we've always over the years have tried to do something that the kids, young and old, can have fun with, and Spider-Man fits the bill.
Spider-Man very much fits the bill. Oh, he's got to go take pictures.
Oh yeah, he's taking pictures with kids. He does little autographs with them too. Aww. And he does personalized autographs with them. So he asks them their name, and every once in a while, he's here for 4.5 or 5 hours. So once in a while, Spider-Man has some very important things to do. He's got to go, meet with Marvel Comics once in a while. He does some Facebook stuff and some FaceTime things with the Future Foundation and things. So he's really busy. Even though he's meeting people here, sometimes he gets pulled away and has to go, do some business.
I think that's really cool because the whole Autorama and car shows, it always feels like it's it's for those older guys and things like that. But again, I've seen so many young kids here,
sure.
And it's really neat that you guys brought in somebody like Spider-Man, who the kids absolutely love.
Sure, absolutely. And over the years we've had like SpongeBob has been here. We've had some of the Disney kids that have been here in the past. We find out too that a lot of times it's generational. It's not unusual to see grandparents, their kids, and then their grandkids all here. It's something they can all do together, and it's kind of cool when the kid goes, "Oh, look at that car," and then Grandpa can say, "Yeah, I had one of those, or I built one of those, or your dad and I did this," and it's also kind of cool because young and old can come by and see Spider-Man too. So a lot of the kids have different reactions. Sometimes they're a little scared, but Spidey's a good guy, so he kind of gets down to their level and coaxes them in.
I used to be scared of Santa.
Well, yeah, that is true. It's kind of one of those things. So, and some other kids come back up. We had one youngster that Spider-Man was, on his important business had to step away from the booth here. That little kid was looking underneath the backdrop, looking underneath the table, trying to find him, and then he would look up towards the ceiling. And of course, Spider-Man's pretty sly, pretty slick. He moves. He crawls, he moves, he does everything. So we kind of snuck up behind that little kid at the very end, which is very cool because he tapped him on the shoulder, and of course the kid turns around and says, "You're Spider-Man."
Oh, that's so
very,
cute.
very cool. So
since you help run Autorama, what brought it into being? I've been to it a couple of years in a row.
Sure.
Especially because of my dad.
Yep.
But what brought it into being? And
well, I think our oldest show is Detroit, and that is 60 plus years old.
Wow.
The show here in Salt Lake City goes back 46 years. So, it's been to several different venues, the Salt Palace for a lot of years, but even before that, there were other places. And that's kind of what's happened across the United States. Most of our shows are 45 years or older.
Wow.
So we continue to come back to the places which have got a great car culture. And, I'm from Indianapolis, and it's interesting, you don't think about the car culture in Salt Lake City. And then again, I guess if you're in Salt Lake City, you don't think of Indianapolis other than the 500 or the drag race that's there every year. But but it's good to see the difference that's here. The lowrider group has been so very big over the years. They can get it stronger, and they're a very big part of not just the Salt Lake City and area scene, but just kind of not just the car show, but the community as well. So you got a lot of car clubs, and
I see them driving around every now and then, and just it's incredible.
Absolutely, they just do a lot for the community that people don't know. And I was very, very surprised here to see how strong that culture was. And not only that, but the wide variety of cars that are here. And oddly enough, we have one couple. Actually, they brought their friends over here. They're from New Zealand.
Whoa.
So the car is a New Zealand car. They shipped it over on a container. They rented a truck, bought a trailer. And I believe this is their last show. So when this is done, they'll turn the rental truck in. They'll find a buyer for the trailer, probably locally here in Salt Lake, and then they will take the car and ship it back to New Zealand. And they're just living the dream. They've been doing it for the last couple of weeks, and they just came over and thought it'd be cool to do a car show, so why not?
That's amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh. It's crazy how all-encompassing this can be.
Sure, very much so.
That's really cool.
And I don't think, and some people, they're just walking around, and so even us older folk will walk around, and they'll walk by and go, "Hey, Spider-Man." They'll give him a little wave, and he'll wave back. Or a lot of times, he'll wave, and they'll go, "Should we wave at Spider-Man?" Or, "Oh, hi," So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Spider-Man, can I get a selfie with you?
Definitely.
All right. So I'm here with
Shannon Watts from Shannon Watts Art and Design.
Awesome. And so you're drawing right now this beautiful Chevrolet, oh
right.
My gosh.
Yeah, so this is a 67 Chevelle, and this is a commission piece for a guy in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And he actually has a collection of cars. So this is part of his Chevelle collection, and then he wants me to do the rest of them and then move on to his Mopar collection. So he's going to keep me busy for a while.
Definitely. So how long does it take you to do one drawing?
Usually a couple days.
Couple days?
Yeah. I've been working on this one for a while. It's kind of hard at the show because I'm up and down and moving around a lot.
Yeah,
but,
keep you busy.
Yeah. So it usually takes a couple days.
Awesome. So what's been your favorite car that you've ever drawn?
I don't know if I really have a favorite. I haven't even drawn my own car, but I really like a lot of the old Art Deco style, some of the old 30s with the rounded fenders and things like that. I think those are a lot more fun, and you also get to do the reflections and highlights and shadows and everything with those. So those are a lot more fun.
Now, my dad always tells me when he gives me advice for art is where there's where it's dark, make a mark. Where it's light, keep it white.
Sure.
So, what kind of advice would you give someone who wants to draw not just cars but any kind of drawings?
Well, it's kind of tricky when you take art classes.
Yeah.
You take life drawing classes, and back in my day when I was taking those classes back at art school or even high school. You set up some objects, you put a lamp up above it, and then you can see where those white places are, and you can see where the dark shadows are. So you can set up your own little scene to draw, people use apples or vases and things like that, just pile them up. A really good test is just a ball with a bright light above it. Then you get your highlights and your shadows, and you can practice your shading, So, yeah, your dad's totally right when he talks about that. So, yeah.
So one thing that I struggle with is chrome. I'm seeing you doing all the shiny parts of this car right now, and just how do you do that? Because chrome is such a weird thing to even just look at. It's beautiful, but how do you capture that?
So chrome is like a mirror. So when you draw chrome, you're actually drawing what the reflection is seeing in the environment around the car.
So it's not just silver.
Right. So you can see on this one, there's kind of some browns down on the bottom of it, which would be reflection from the ground. So, and then up on top, you'll see the reflections from the sky. So you see blue.
That's actually really clever.
So, you know, and then depending on where the car's at, you might see green, like if it's parked on grass or something like that. So
depending on where it's at.
Yeah.
All right.
So I do most of mine the same. So most of mine look like they're on maybe asphalt or a dirt road, and then sitting outside.
Awesome. So each of our episodes usually end with what we call cosplay horror stories. And so do you have any car horror stories that you would share?
Well, as far as like my illustrations go, I found out early that we want to do a composition first. Have the customer approve that composition before I spend a couple days drawing, because, you know, early on I do a drawing, and if, well, gee, I didn't want the year behind the car, or I wanted the car at a different angle, I can put 2 days of work in, and then all of a sudden the guy doesn't like it and I have to start over. So that's kind of my type of horror story, I guess, as far as the art goes.
And it's good advice at the same time. Like,
Sure.
I do a different kind of art commission. I actually will draw people's costumes before they build them. And sometimes I'll send something out and they'll be like, oh no, the seams are all in the wrong places. Try and change that. Because I try and help, I call them build sketches. And so it's like, okay, so they want to smooth the seams around. And I've had to adapt and be like, okay, when I get to certain steps, I need to stop and let the commissioner approve what I have.
Right, yeah.
Or I just lose so much progress.
Right. So yeah, same kind of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Miguel Robles with Lux Auto Spa in Salt Lake City.
Awesome. And we are looking at some really nice cars right here. Tell me a little bit about them.
So Lux Auto Spa, we started Lux Auto Spa 8 years ago under Lux. We've been detailers before, but we, you know, Cougar here started Lux Auto Spa, the shop. We were working under one roof, and we were just detailing cars. And little by little, you know, we were just washing cars, a couple of guys. We had a team of 3, and over the years, we kind of decided to get more serious with it, kind of chase more of the high-end market, expand into different services. And, you know, 8 years later, here we are, Lux Automotive. We just did a rebrand. Now that we're Lux Automotive, I feel like it kind of encases what we do. Lux Auto Spa wasn't fitting it anymore. You hear Lux Auto Spa, people thought car wash, right?
Yeah.
So now we offer everything from car washes, vinyl wraps, so to color change your vehicle, polishing your car, so paint correction, aftermarket, so you want different wheels, if you want you want to personalize your car, make it more yourself, and add an exhaust, add different bumpers. We do 12 volt, which means we can do a sound system, lighting, custom lighting, remote start. So our dream of being a one-stop shop is now here. You know, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's paid off. There's a couple more additions that we have, you know, in the plan, but now we have a race division that's in the works. Cars for Kids, our nonprofit organization, is also something that we're super proud of. We've been hard at work at that, and it's, you know, picking up, taking flight. So here we're showcasing some of the cars. We brought some of the cars out to Autorama. A little bit of what we do. So we have everything from your track toys, classic muscle cars, exotic Ferraris, super unique Lamborghinis, you know, American icons like the Ford GT, and the new generation Ford GT, which is actually Camilo Pardo's, who's the lead designer of the second generation GT. So
and there's some really cool details on these cars. So
yeah, let's start with the GT over there.
Awesome.
So the GT here, it's super unique. It's got a unique livery on it. Very different to every other GT in production. This one's actually Camilo's himself. He's the owner of this vehicle. You can see he's got his signatures everywhere, his branding all over the car. He's got his signature look. He's got the number 7, super stunning car. So he actually lives in Detroit. He has a studio in Los Angeles, California, and he comes up to Utah for a lot of charity events. You know, he's a part of, and we do. So every time he's up here, we see his car. We get to hang out with him for a little bit. So it's a very special car.
Wow. So he collects signatures on these. You were telling me the other day that he goes through each of these cars, fills them with signatures,
Correct.
and then what does he do with them after again?
So he commissions the car, makes his own, paints it, and then he drives, as you should. He drives the heck out of the car, does many tours with them. He drives around the country. He collects the signatures of influential people in motorsports. And then later down the line, when he goes to auction the car or sell the car, not only is it a unique car in itself, but it's also a part of history.
So it becomes a museum piece in that
Definitely,
way. Like it's very, I think that's such a cool thing to do with a car. Like,
it is,
to make it more than just something that you drive around, you add, that history to it.
Exactly. I mean, to us car guys, like it's super common saying in the car world, a vehicle, your car, is an extension of yourself. So he's an artist. You know, he does oil paintings. He designed for Ford. So his nature, as an artist, is really reflected, with this car. It's unique. It's different. It means something. It's not just a car to get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, so. It's his own unique vision. You were telling me about how he chose the numbers for each car.
I asked them.
Like it's like a random. Yeah.
I've noticed how every one of his builds has a different number. So I was wondering if there was some significance behind the number. And the way he chooses the number is he just chooses the number that fits the characteristics of the car. So if a car has certain body lines that works well with certain numbers, that's the number he chooses for the vehicle. So it's very, very designer, very eye for detail. So
yes, it's a beautiful car.
Stunning, yeah.
And then on the Lamborghini, what were some neat details on here that you were getting excited about them yesterday?
Yeah. So the 2019 Lamborghini Aventador SVJ. So this is the first one in Utah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the first one that landed. We got it maybe 4 days ago. One of our clients dropped it off for us to be able to, very gracefully allowed us to bring it out and show it off. So right off the bat, you notice the satin color. That satin white is actually the paint of the car. There's no film on there.
Wow.
There's a film to protect it, but the actual color of the car is the satin white. So that in itself is a very unique finish to the vehicle. Complements very well with all the gloss carbon fiber accent, gloss black wheels, center lock wheels. So on this one, it's got a very unique bespoke color on the caliper, that metallic bronze. It ties in very, very well with the manifold of the car, the valve covers. And if you look at, once you make your way into the interior, that same bronze is carried into the stitching. So when you buy a car of this caliber, it's you can spec it out however the heck you want. And it's really awesome because you buy this car and you truly get to make it your own. You can pick the materials, you can pick the colors. This one has the leather bolsters with Alcantara interior finishes, Alcantara dash, the white pinstriping and white piping in there, and finishing it up with the bronze stitching. So very, very unique car. We love this car.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time again.
My pleasure, anytime.
Again, this is so cool. So thank you again.
We love it. We're stoked, and we love to share how stoked we get about this car, the passion behind it. We love talking about it. So,
and it's like I can tell you get excited about cars.
I do, definitely.
And it's so neat to see that Lux Automotive has all these cars come in that you guys can do unique things for them and help keep them with the protective coverings and things like that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Next week, we'll be going back to our cosplay fun times and nonsense. Let's see. Again, you can send your stories to us at cosplaystitchandscene@gmail.com or go to the website cosplaystitchandscene.com. Join our group. Our Facebook group is growing. We're over 500 strong now, and everyone's being really supportive. It's been a nice thing during all this COVID stuff, so hop on there, see people's progress on their #quarantine challenge cosplays, and I'll see you guys next week. Music by Macy Roberts, and sound editing by the talented David. To you, David.
Thanks, Mercedes. If you all want to check out some of my stuff, you can find my shows, Dungeons and Chill. It's a real play D&D podcast where me and a bunch of friends sit down and play Dungeons and Dragons. It's a lot of fun. And if you want something comic book related, you can always go to my other podcast, Comic Trades Monthly, where every month we sit down and we talk about a volume of a comic book. This month, we talked about New Mutants. We're going to be in line with the movie coming out, but, the world happened. So, if you want to check those out, I'd really appreciate it. We have a lot of fun on those shows as well. And because Pannon and Mercedes did not leave us with a pun, I have a pun for you this time. What kind of a car do dogs hate? Corvettes. Good night, everybody.